Welcome back to Open World Chat. I'm John Odom. As always, I'm here with Mark Card. Mark, how's it going?
It's going well. And you, John?
Not too bad. Actually, not too bad. The coffee is starting to hit, so that's a good sign. I had it very late in the day. It's late in the day now, and I'm only just getting around to it.
Well, that means you won't crash and burn.
Well, or that, or I'll do it all at once. We've actually recorded a couple episodes back to back, and I feel like I was so lethargic for the last one, and now I'm sort of perking up. So
Yep,
this
you're
will,
you're starting to hit flow state now.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, so this was an episode. What we're going to talk about today is a certain type of character issue. We're going to talk about characters that get spoiled, basically spoiled characters. But I had come up with the idea, and I had a particular character in mind. So I might as well just go lead with him, and then we'll go from
Yeah,
there. But what I found is that there aren't many that are good, pure examples of this particular type of character. I wanted to look at, well, what got me started was Hank Pym, right?
hmm.
The original Giant Man, Goliath, Yellow Jacket, Ant-Man, um, from the
Creator of
comics,
Ultron.
creator of Ultron, right? Has not appeared in the movies, but in the comics was one of the original Avengers.
Now, he's been in the movies.
Oh God, that's right. What am I saying? He had him in the Ant-Man movies. What am I thinking? I mean, he hadn't been in the Avengers movies.
No, he hasn't been in an Avengers movie,
Yeah,
correct? He's kind of retired at this point in the MCU.
yeah, yeah. It's Michael Douglas. Um, but yeah, he was a sort of regular hero in the comics. Um, but he started being written as a little mentally fragile, let's put it that way. And I guess it was the late 70s when he had his real meltdown, or early 80s. I can't remember which. I had to have been the early 80s. Anyways, it was back when I was reading a lot of comics. And he had a gradual sort of nervous breakdown. And as part of that, at one point, he strikes his wife, Janet Van Dyne. Well, I don't know if they were
Hmm.
married at that point. Well, anyways, he hits her. Um, and that is a big deal. Obviously, we have comics and we have a moment of domestic violence. And even
Right.
though he was portrayed as being sort of out of his head, didn't matter. So, anyways, he had a hard time. He got in a lot of trouble just in general, not so much about that at all, but in general for being screwed up from
Right.
the Avengers. And they moved on with it. And he was integrated back into regular herodom after his breakdown. And he's certainly not the first comic book character who's had a crazy breakdown and had to be reintegrated into the fold. Vision, Quicksilver, they both come to mind.
Hmm.
Um, but because of the nature of what he did, it stuck. Really, they have struggled to make him anything more than the superhero who hit Janet Van Dyne.
Right.
And that stained him. And I think at a point they've even stopped. I mean, you don't see the guy anymore, really. You haven't for a while, except off and on here and there. And I don't think he's been able to shake that stain. I don't think he's going to be able to shake that stain um, unless they take some real narrative efforts, which we'll talk about in other cases where that's been done. And so I think was the primary example I thought of a character who's been permanently stained, a good character who has maybe been wrecked forever because of one decision by one writer and one editor. But I was finding that it's hard to find other characters that quite fit this particular version of that mold. I don't know. Mark, did
I've
you?
got I've got one.
Oh yeah, well, do
Riley.
tell.
Riley from Buffy.
It's interesting because I had Buffy in my head too, but not Riley. They did kind of, it is sort of the same thing. Once he started
Riley,
doing the thing, going to the vampire thing,
yes. Yeah,
He never really
letting the
went from
vampire
that.
feed off him, and
Yeah.
then he stakes her. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, he never they never cleaned him of that being sort of whatever that was, but it
I
was
mean, that was the thing
unseemly.
that, that it was a we can get into a whole big thing with me and Spike here.
Spike.
Uh,
Yeah, that's one I want to talk about, but
well, we'll talk about Spike, but yeah, that's good because I've got the death knell of anybody who says, "Well, Spike is perfect for Buffy." No, Spike is the worst person for Buffy, and we'll talk
mhm.
about why in a minute. Uh, but Riley is like that. Um, and in some ways, I think the writers really, unfortunately, blame Buffy for it. You
Yeah.
know, expectations were too high. He was too much of a good guy. He wasn't, morally gray enough for her. It's Buffy's fault.
Mhm.
That's what they said. I think it's Riley's fault.
Well, yeah. I mean, his own
Riley
motive.
knew what he was doing.
Hmm.
He knew it was never going to last because he's too much he's too good. And if you're a vampire hunter, a vampire slayer, you've got that darkness in you, and it's because the original Watchers Council basically made a human demon hybrid so she could fight demons. And but he's really at fault here. He's the one who decides to try and make himself darker. He's the one who decides to uh and it's not just that thing he does. He also Riley also, when they find out that his metabolism has been manipulated by the initiative, he's like, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm fine. I feel better than I ever have. And of course, he's dying, and so he tries to defy all of the things he really is, and in doing so, he kills any chance he has with Buffy.
Well,
And he's stained. He can't come back from being uh, a super good. I mean, even his own contemporaries, even his colleagues, even his squad mates say, "Yeah, you're just too good." And now, I mean, they take him back, but he's always that guy that let vampires feed on him.
yeah, I think that's a stain that would have stuck if they'd kept him around much longer. I
Yeah,
think that's a
I
good
don't. I mean,
example.
I think that's why they had to get rid of him.
Yeah,
There was
arguable.
no
Yeah.
way to redeem Riley. There
Yeah.
just wasn't. And so he's the best example I can think of as a spoiled hero, as somebody and they still let him do what he does. And even when he goes off and rejoins the army to fight demons, nobody says, "Oh, well, yeah, you're a bad guy now. You can't do this." So he's allowed to continue, but he's never going to be the same. He's never going to
Mhm.
be the same. So
Well,
I think that's the best pure example of that. Or the purest example of it is that Riley's never coming back from that. He's always going to be the guy that purposely sabotaged his relationship with Buffy.
mhm.
Purposely did it because he felt like he wasn't good enough. So, I mean, he felt like he wasn't good enough because he was too good.
Mhm.
So he should have just realized that he was never going to be that thing for Buffy and moved on. And that would have been a better end for the character. It would have been a better end for Buffy. It would have moved on.
Well,
So
let's stay with Buffy, and we'd
sure.
mentioned Spike, and it's really Spike is probably the biggest controversy in Buffy. Um, Whether or not, the episode where he's still a, vampire slash demon and he sexually assaults her. There's a number of
Yes.
problems with that episode. But it becomes a sort of restatement in very stark terms of no, remember, this guy doesn't have a soul. He's not really a guy, he's really a demon. And so then he goes to get his soul. It creates, and then, we're supposed to be able to move on from it. Does that work? the line with Spike between having a soul and not having a soul was always so mushy
Well,
that
here's the problem I see with it.
Mhm,
It goes back further than that. Without that chip in Spike's head, one of two things happens. He's dust or he kills Buffy.
mhm.
And people say, "Oh, well, he got a soul." Yeah, when Angel had his soul, he did horrible things. So, uh, he abandons his whole crew
Mhm.
when he goes after Darla and Angel. Having a soul doesn't make you capable of right or wrong decision making.
Well, I think it's supposed to make you less monstrous, though. And
Well,
they,
does it? A whole
I,
bunch of people with souls in Buffy do very, very bad things.
yeah, but I guess they're supposed to know better. This soul thing in Buffy is very ill-defined
Well,
and problematic.
here's the other problem I have with Spike. Spike is the absolute antithesis of the Slayer. His whole purpose in life is to kill as many Slayers as possible.
Hmm.
That's the way they introduced him. He's not killed one, but two Slayers. And so he is the worst possible person to be from Buffy without the chip.
Although you could say that history makes it inevitable that they're going to get together, right?
Well, sure, yes, because of her whole that's the whole
Or just sort of
uh
narratively.
well that's the whole medieval um tradition of from things like Tristan and Petrarch and how you have two people who the fates will determine should never be together ever under any circumstances, but they're madly in love with each other. I
Hmm.
mean, that's a very old the term for that is roman courtois. That's a very old literary tradition. It goes
Right.
back hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Which is why you could almost say it was inevitable, but I still think it was a
But
questionable creative decision.
For Spike, he's the worst person to be with Buffy.
Mhm.
Without the chip, all he wants to do is kill her. And so that's really the only thing stopping him. If he doesn't have the chip, he doesn't try to get the soul.
Mhm.
He doesn't love Buffy and is not capable of loving Buffy until he has the chip, which means all of that is artificial.
Yeah, and it just breaks down if you think about it too much, as you're saying, he wants to go get the get his soul back so he can, you know, properly love her and be a match, but he wouldn't be motivated to do that if he weren't already in love with her. So what's the difference? Whatever. I don't know. It was problematic. I enjoyed the series very much. I
Well,
enjoyed the last
I was
season,
going to mention him as
but
one of these spoiled heroes until I realized he was not a hero to begin with. He
yeah, but
was
he had become one.
I don't I really because
Yeah.
even when he goes over to Angel, even when he goes over to Angel, he gets easily misled by can't remember the character's name, the guy who lost his hand.
Oh, see, I didn't watch Angel. Couldn't tell you.
Oh, you need to watch Angel because they make it clear in Angel when he comes back. So Spike comes back from the dead
Hmm. Yeah.
and works with Angel as a ghost,
Hmm.
but Angel never completely trusts him because he's Spike.
Right.
He never completely trusts him, and he gets led off down this chase where I can't think of the guy's name. We're gonna have to look him up.
Yeah. I don't know. While you're looking that up, the reforming kind of worked for me, and but that's why the assault was so jarring. Um, I mean, it wasn't as bad as say, making Negan into a protagonist,
Yeah, that was terrible.
which was just insane. But the Spike thing, I took his evolution, and then they
Oh well, yeah.
threw
No, I
it out
mean,
the
I
window.
saw it coming early. I saw it coming early.
Mhm.
I saw it in season 4 very early when he was there for Thanksgiving. I was
Hmm.
like, oh, for Christ's sake, they're going to make him her next love interest. And,
Yeah.
I eventually embraced it, but tentatively,
Hmm.
you know, he's, for me, Spike doesn't love Buffy. He's obsessed with her.
Right.
And the only way you could turn it into love was for him to get his soul back. And so
Right.
that's plot armor. He's the worst person for Buffy. He's the anti-Slayer. He's the thing that Slayers worry about.
So
Um,
it's not poisoning for you because he never worked for you as a true protagonist in the first place.
no, I mean,
Mhm.
the closest thing that he did when he worked as a protagonist was when they captured him and he didn't, when Glory captured him and he didn't rat out Dawn.
Mhm.
So he got tortured and he got, beat up and he got, beat down, but he never told Glory Dawn was the key.
Mhm.
That's the best he gets. Now, the other thing is, and this is another controversial moment in Buffy, the next best thing is, and this is totally this was a dumb turn in the writing. This never would have happened. Uh in season 7 when all the potentials kick Buffy out of her own house.
Yeah. That was stupid.
That was a giant mistake.
That was a
And
low
I'll
point in the series in terms of writing.
and one of my favorite things about that is this internet discussion that went on. It started on Reddit and it moved out to the general internet after that. It was, whose side would Cordelia have been on? Would she have sided with if she's still part of the Scoobies, is she going to side with the potentials and Giles and Willow and Xander, or would she have said, "Yeah, you bitches are stupid"? And to me, the answer is obvious. She would have let the potentials have it. She would have said, "This person has saved your ass countless times, and now you're abandoning her because she made one mistake."
She would have made a point first of insulting Buffy up and down and say, "Oh, and of course she's X, Y, and Z, but you all are crazy."
Yeah. This is ridiculous. And that's what I love Cordelia, because once you see Angel, you see she has the biggest character arc, the biggest evolution of any person in that show.
Mhm.
You got to watch Angel.
Yeah, that was the biggest shortcoming of the last episode of Buffy. They didn't bring back Cordelia and they didn't bring back Oz. It was
Well, yeah, well, Oz, Seth Green was pissed because he was promised one thing and did not get it. He was promised to be turned into a much bigger character.
mm,
And nope, they didn't do it. So he left the series. He was not fired. Joss promised him a lot bigger role and a lot more interesting stuff to go on with his character. And so he went to him in season 4 and says, "I want out. You didn't do what you said you were going to do."
Now, see,
So I
there's the
can't imagine.
spinoff I wanted to see. I wasn't so interested in an Angel spinoff, part of why because I never loved the character, so I didn't really follow along. But an Oz spinoff, oh man, you would have had me from the get-go, man.
Well, I wanted, of course, the Faith spinoff.
Yeah, well, that's another obvious one they could have done too.
Well, she turned it down. Eliza Dushku turned it down.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
she had an opportunity to do her own thing, True Calling. She kind of wanted to make a name for herself, so
Hmm.
she said, "I'm not going to do that." And I'm like, "Oh, that would have been so good."
Yeah, she
Although I
would.
do think it's funny, the fans for a long time have shipped Buffy and Faith,
Mm.
and recently Sarah Michelle Gellar came out and said, "Yeah, I would have been all over that. That would have been great." She said in her head, that's canon, that Buffy and Faith had a thing.
Yeah, it worked.
Well, I mean, it just works for the character. They have so much in common, but
Yeah.
but they're also so different that you can see that kind of opposites attract thing happening. But I have a lot of problems with Spike and the absolute love for Spike in the fandom. Spike was horrible, and Spike, without the chip, tries to kill her at every turn.
Mhm. Yep.
And so that is just a plot armor convention to turn him into, oh, Spike is so dreamy and he's perfect for Buffy. And no, he's not perfect for Buffy. He's the worst possible choice for Buffy. And the sexual assault scene shows why you can't trust him.
Right. Right.
So a soul doesn't necessarily turn you into a good person. It
Right.
makes you capable of loving, but so what? There's
Yeah.
lots of people who love and then still do terrible things.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So
Well,
yes,
that's such a big discussion in the Buffy world. It's
yeah, it is. And
here.
never mind, Buffy could have easily overpowered Spike and killed him for doing that. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. And then there's that
players
part.
are stronger than the vampires. They have to be by definition.
Yeah.
So
That
no,
was thrown too.
that would never have happened.
Yeah.
So
So I'm going to throw a different kind of stain at you. See
yeah, let's do
what you
it.
think here. This one isn't a moral stain, but this is where they arguably have, I wouldn't say wrecked a character, but seriously damaged a character with one decision from one writer that has stuck. And that's in the MCU. And Star-Lord as a self-obsessed idiot. Arguably it's his fault that half the universe is killed off because they all but have Thanos, of course, and they're pulling the glove off his hand, and he realizes that Gamora has been killed, and so he starts hitting him and wakes him up.
Yep.
That's a tough scene to watch, and it's impossible not to carry it with you as you're an impression of the character of this guy is an untrustworthy boob. And I think that was a mistake. And you saw it coming too. And I think it was bad writing.
I think it was bad writing, and I'm not a big fan of Chris Pratt in that role anyway.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, he
I
sort of
have,
defined it, so I can't.
I
Yeah,
mean, he's fine in it, but I think there might have been better people to throw in there. And I'll admit I have a bias. His politics are terrible.
yeah,
Um, it's and he's really, if you know what happened with his child, uh, with Anna Faris, he's kind of a bad human being. He really is.
oh, geez, I don't think I want to know. No, I'm gonna look
No, you really
it
don't.
up.
Um, yeah, he did something kind of really bad as a parent, and it's not like he didn't hurt anybody, but not physically anyway.
Mhm.
Anyway, yeah, I don't know anything about the comic book character.
Very different. There's not even any comparison.
Yeah, I don't. I don't know. I just think that's a. You're right. That's a stain, and he's not. He's not disciplined enough to do what you have to do.
Yeah. Even when the universe is on the line, he can't uh,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
can't contain himself.
Well,
Because of that, trillions die.
I'm gonna have to come out here and say he's kind of like the Democrats who stayed home in 2024. There was no reason for that,
Yeah.
except my candidate's not perfect. I can't have a perfect candidate, so I'm not voting Democrat.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Hope your kids are safe now. Anyway, so yeah, I don't, I really don't like Star-Lord, and I have fought with this. I thought, well, how would I behave? Well, Gamora said, "Kill me," to prevent it. So you can't bring her back.
Mhm.
And she would rather have died than him get the stone anyway. So why would you let him have the stone? On the other hand, well, he loved her, and so he couldn't control his emotions. But the deal is, if he really loved her, he shouldn't have done something stupid like that.
Mhm.
So it's hard to know. Then yeah, he's stained. He's done as a character. Even when you're watching the Guardians of the Galaxy 3,
Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason why they shifted the focus to Rocket.
Oh, I wonder. Yeah. Maybe they were. they'd realized that they'd damaged him.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we have no way of knowing that, but
Mhm.
should certainly would make sense. I've got some controversial ones for you here.
Oh yeah, throw me a couple by all means.
The least controversial is Cisco from DS9, but I think he's a spoiled hero.
That's a really good question. As far as how I feel about that. I think I would agree with that. I
I think he's
wonder,
a spoiled hero.
I almost think that, well, I don't think to most people he always was that guy who poisoned the planet. But for some of us, he was, and he
Oh, it's
always
not
was.
just poisoning the planet.
Well, he did all kinds of,
It's also
well, the
the whole thing with Garrick.
yeah, the I can live with it from
I mean, essentially what he did was he he I'm trying to think how to put this. He did the Section 31 thing.
yeah, he did. I've actually gotten a little more tolerant of that over the years. Just because he said he could live with it. He didn't necessarily say that he would have done it that way. So I've given him a little more slack, and maybe I shouldn't. You know
Oh,
what I
well,
mean?
you definitely shouldn't, because if he knew it was wrong and realized he could live with it, then he actively made the decision to cross that line morally.
Then that's the same as actually pulling the trigger yourself, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right about
If
that.
he knew that was going to be the result, and Garrick calls him out. Garrick says, "What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
When you recruited me, knowing my past, working for the Obsidian Order,
Mhm.
what did you think I was going to do?
Yeah.
Did you think I was going to be the good guy? Did you think I was going to have this kind of moral compass? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm
I've
Garrick.
tried to
I
give
blow
him.
stuff up. I kill people. I do bad things."
So it was willful ignorance. Yeah, I've tried to give him more slack, but you're reminding me that I really shouldn't.
No, you shouldn't. And because, well, and you shouldn't for more than one reason. One of the reasons why you shouldn't is he becomes a much more interesting character now.
Yeah, well, that's true.
He becomes a much more interesting character now because he's faced this and made a specific decision in the service of the greater good.
Mm.
But he realizes that to preserve that greater good, he had to sacrifice his own moral center. And while that's a good thing to do, it's not altruistic.
It's pretty anti-Star Trek too. You don't, our moral center is what
It is
sustains us.
very different than Star Trek. It
Yeah.
is. And, that's hinted at when he poisons the atmosphere of the McKee planet to get
Right.
them to leave. Uh, and so that was a hint that he's not the really great moral example that not only audiences think, but the wormhole aliens think too.
Hmm. Yeah, and he never
Um,
got any narrative comeuppance for that, which
Never got any problems with that at all. And I have to tell you that if Kirk did something like that, there would have been consequences.
mm,
If uh, Picard had done something like that, they would have dealt with that later in another episode.
mhm.
And so he was kind of let off the hook. But that shows what the problem is with DS9. DS9 in lots of different ways is not a typical Star Trek show. I think it's one of the better ones, but it's definitely not typical.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it. I think it works
But
better in
I
Star
think
Trek history.
Cisco is a good example of that. He's allowed to then basically take charge of the strategy in the Dominion War.
Hmm.
There is no comeuppance for it. In fact, he's praised more and more and more during the course of the series.
Yeah.
And really, uh, any other Starfleet officer who did both of those things. Now he didn't get caught with assassination of the Romulan, but we know it happened. And so I think Cisco turns into a bad guy there. And I think it's really hard to take away that stain. I think it's tough to do. I love Cisco. I think he's one of the best captains in the series, but he definitely abandoned even his own moral code to get these things done. And what makes it interesting is that's kind of the price of war.
Hmm.
You're going to have to do some terrible, unthinkable things if you want to preserve a greater, you know, goal.
Yeah, I think it was a little clumsy. I mean, they made him morally gray and then sort of acted like he wasn't so much of the rest of the time. I
Yes.
think of, another. What I was finding when I was looking at these is that there's a lot of times where characters are stained and the writers have some sense of that.
Yeah.
And later writers, and I mean, we're talking about, we're not going to be finding this in many movies unless they're movie series.
Right.
This is
Franchises. Yeah.
serialized stuff, and that's why so many of the examples I came up with turned out to be from comics. I mean, you've got so many writers and so many editors over decades with these characters. There's bound to be some interesting hiccups, and one of them that jumped to mind was Cyclops as a deadbeat dad
Hmm.
in the comics when he leaves Madeline Pryor and his kid, and because Jean Grey pops back up again. Oh, my true love. Well, goodbye. And that stuck with him. Uh,
Yeah.
a lot of people would always bring up, oh yeah, Cyclops, yeah, deadbeat dad. But then you get into the teens, and instead of rehabilitating him, they just make him into a morally gray character.
Yeah.
So it sort of absorbs that in a sense. It's like, well, actually, then it's just part of the character. Then it's not a stain like with Hank Pym. It's just this is a morally gray guy. So
Yeah.
they
This is just
actually,
who he is. Yeah.
yeah, that's who he is, and that's who he was all the time. So that was an interesting way to deal with that stain, I think. But I mean, and with Cisco, they sort of did that kind of. I don't know. I mean, I feel like, especially with all the sort of para theological stuff they had going on, that by the time they were done with him, we were to think he was pretty pure.
Yeah. And he's not.
Yeah, and he's
I
not.
mean, he's really, really not.
Yeah.
And I think the difference is he thought about the moral dilemma he was in. They put a lot more time into, well, he did this and he mulled over whether or not this is the right thing and decided it was the right thing. But I think he understood, within the character himself that he was gonna have to violate some serious principles to do it. So really, he kind of undermines the whole Starfleet ethic by doing both of those things.
Hmm.
And that's a big deal. That's a big thing. And they present him as he's this no nonsense guy who isn't going to be put in a moral dilemma. And I think the best example of that is when Q shows up, he just decks him.
Yeah.
He doesn't say, "Oh well, yes, put me in this interesting position and see how I deal with it." He's like, "Screw you! I don't have time for you."
Yeah, that was funny.
And so he's kind of established at the very beginning as uh and he turns down command of a ship
Hmm.
after Wolf 359 when his wife gets killed.
Yeah.
They say, "Well, we want to make you commander of a ship." He says, "No, I'm not doing that."
Yeah.
So he's established as this character with really strong principles and a really strong moral center. And then nothing happens because when he completely defies that moral center. So, but from a literature perspective, that makes him a really interesting character.
Hmm. Yeah. I think that's fair. That's reasonable.
So I think there are a lot of people out there who would fundamentally disagree with the moral arc of Cisco, and they would try to justify it by saying, "Well, look what was at stake." Yeah, what was at stake? Does Starfleet really lose that much of a reputation if the Maquis uh, colonize a planet?
Yeah.
You know, and uh, there are a billion other ways probably to get the Romulans to start to ally with Starfleet in the Dominion War. You don't have to actively murder somebody to get that goal. Would it be easy? Yeah, no. Would it be a lot more difficult to do? Yes, of course. But you don't have to straight up murder somebody to get there.
This example compared to where we started shows up, I think creates a really interesting distinction to make with this kind of thing, and that's tarnishing versus poisoning. Um, Hank Pym as a character was poisoned.
Right.
Um, Cisco was not. He was tarnished. And the writers could still work with that and, leave some bad taste in some people, like you're in your mouth and my mouth here. Um, but he wasn't poisoned. The character could continue. And the poisonings, they're a lot rarer.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh no, I agree. I agree. But see, I think that makes them even worse.
mhm.
I think it makes it even worse. And I'll give you a really good example of that. And that's from the MCU. I don't know how they deal with this in the movies. I mean, in the comics. That's Bucky Barnes.
Oh, that's not who I thought you were going to say. That's funny. I had the
It,
whole idea who I thought you were going to say, but I'll get to it.
it's Bucky Barnes.
You
Bucky
mean,
Barnes did horrible things, and he gets a pass for it because he was brainwashed.
yeah, which is a very standard comic book trope.
But still,
Mm-hmm.
he's still the guy in the MCU who killed Stark's parents.
Mm-hmm.
He's still the guy that almost killed uh, Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
He's still the guy, and even the Avengers don't accept him for a very long time.
Yeah.
He almost blew up T'Challa. Well, they thought anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Bucky Barnes is another example of this. Oh well, he's allowed to continue being a hero, but he did some really bad stuff.
Yeah. The extreme version of that, you could say it was a little more complicated because this has to do with, narrative
Yeah.
uh, payment and stuff would be
Oh yeah.
Anakin Skywalker. I mean, by the end, he's redeemed, but can you ever actually be redeemed as a character for killing a whole bunch of kids like that? Can you really?
Oh, and that's just the start.
Can we say? But that's the big one. That's the one that sticks in people's craws. And that's the one that feels like it crosses into, I don't know that I'm really comfortable forgiving you for that, even though, okay, yes, you were under control. You were kind of buckied here, right? It was the dark side of the force had you in its grip. But
Right.
is that enough? Or did they just poison that character?
Yeah. Well, I read a bunch of stuff that George Lucas said, and he said he's still the chosen one.
Mm,
He brought balance to the Force. He's still the chosen one, even though he did all that bad stuff. He's still the chosen one. So the creator thinks that's perfectly fine. Doesn't matter. He's still the chosen one. He's still the guy that kills. Well, you think kills the Emperor, and so he's still the chosen one.
yeah, he didn't bring balance to the force. He just tipped the balance to the other side. But that's
Right.
that's a story problem. That's a writing
That's
problem.
definitely a story
Yeah.
problem. That's a oh look what we did. Now we have to justify it.
Mhm.
So and the th and that was in direct response to somebody who said, Is Anakin really the chosen one? Is he really the focus of the story? Because in the first three movies, Anakin is the side character compared to Darth Vader's the side character compared to compared to Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Skywalker is the guy. I mean, he's the chosen one in that three sets of movies. I
Yeah.
mean, in that set of three movies.
Yeah. And he actually does bring some balance. You get this.
That's right, he does.
The only way Anakin brings balance to the Force is by, having a kid who does it for him. So that
Right.
doesn't count.
Yeah.
It shouldn't
I
count anyway.
Oh, I agree with you. I think George is wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
Which is kind of crazy to say since he's the guy who created all of this, but I think he's wrong.
yeah.
I think Luke is clearly the moral center of that whole franchise.
Yeah.
And is that moral center tested? Yes. Uh, does he survive all the tests of that moral testing? I think yeah.
Mhm.
I think he does. I think he passes all of the tests. Some in better ways than others. But even when he realized it would be better to kill Ben Solo, he didn't do it.
Mhm.
So, um, and now that we're talking about Star Wars,
Oh, who you got?
it's time for another character. Now, you could argue, like Spike, that this guy was never a really good guy, but um, how are we introduced to Han Solo?
Oh, you mean just being the ruthless killer there?
He is a ruthless killer.
Hmm.
Han did not shoot first. Han is the only one who fired at
At
all.
all. I know the whole shoot first thing that always
He
like,
did
what do you
not
mean
shoot
first?
first. He killed Greedo in cold blood to
Hmm.
survive so he could save uh, Luke Skywalker from Darth Vader at the end in the trench.
Hmm. But
And he's a terrible person.
but
He's
he
a
has a
terrible
redemption
person.
arc. And the thing is, about we don't care about Greedo. And it's
Nope.
funny because generally the ones that we don't forgive are the ones where there's personal betrayals or abuse, right? It's not where it becomes an abstraction if somebody causes genocide or something like that,
Right.
which we can get to probably later also. But so here's one that's personal that we don't care about because it's a character who's basically wallpaper.
Right.
So
Right.
so it doesn't even that we don't even bat an eye. But you're right.
But
It is a moral, it should be a moral stain.
but it's set up to do that to make him look like this lovable rogue who can't be who could be bought on anything.
Hmm.
If you wanted to look at an analogy in a character in another science fiction TV show, a lot of people would say that Han Solo is Mal.
Now you're gonna say that. I could
Han
tell.
Solo is
I
not
feel it.
Mal, he's Jane.
Uh-huh. But a smarter version.
At least until he meets Princess Leia.
Hmm. Yeah. He
Uh,
has a redemption arc, an overlooked
he
aspect of that
definitely has
personally
a
is a
redemption
lot of it's
arc.
the Han Solo
But
story.
the question is, should he?
Hmm.
And I'm not so sure he should.
But I would
Because,
say he doesn't get stained because people bought it. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's right. And that's the way a lot of this happens. A lot of whether or not you end up stained or tarnished or whatever, however you want to put it, depends on the story that you're written into.
Yeah. It depends on the quality of writing.
And also, George Lucas said he didn't intend for Han Solo to be the main character he ended up being. He intended him to be a side character that shows, what the kind of decisions you have to, or what kind of people you have to ally yourself with to destroy an empire.
Yeah. No,
And
it feels
which they
that
do
way.
a really
Yeah.
great job of that in Andor. Holy cow, that's a really good show for that.
Hmm.
But and Harrison Ford didn't want to be that either. I mean, really, Harrison Ford said, "I'll do Revenge." Sorry, Empire Strikes Back if you kill me off.
Hmm.
But what happened was he was such a popular character that Lucas didn't see how he could kill him off.
Yeah. Yep.
And you know the reason why they put him in carbonite, don't you?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Everybody had
Narrative reason.
instead of killing him at the end of Empire Strikes Back, they
Right.
put him into the carbonite.
I mean, I know the narrative reason for it to
Yeah, no.
transport
The
him.
real world reason for it is everybody had signed on for return except him.
That's funny.
And so they had to make sure that he was coming back.
Hmm.
And they weren't sure of that. So,
That's funny.
but I guess let's see, I guess in the second movie it was in the second movie where uh Harrison Ford said, "Yeah, I don't want as much of a salary in this. I want some back end points."
Mm-hmm.
And so they were I think this is right. I could be wrong, but I think they were questioning whether or not he was going to get back end points from Return of the Jedi. And so he went, "Yeah, maybe I'm not going to be in it." But anyway, I know that's the reason why they put him in Carbonite because it wasn't guaranteed that he was coming back as Han Solo.
That's funny. Well, it worked. And I can see how they could have written him out if they needed to.
Yeah, yeah. I
That's
mean,
funny.
obviously they could have written him out real easy. Um, but anyway, so I only have, but I think the Han Solo thing is kind of it doesn't quite fit because I think he was kind of bad all along. He does have a redemption arc, and but I think it mostly has to do with Princess Leia and his real world popularity.
Yeah, yeah, both of those things, I think. So
So
I've got an interesting one that's a retroactive ruining.
sure,
Um, this is um I'm not sure it's the same thing. The character is forever stained by one plot decision,
yeah.
but it's at the end of the character's existence. So they're not stained going forward. It retroactively stains everything that came before it,
Uh
making it hard to rewatch. Um, I'm thinking of Jamie Lannister.
yeah. I thought about him too.
He's kind of
Um,
wrecked. I mean, go back and rewatch him and try to get back into those scenes where he was developing as a character. You can't anymore. It's
no,
just like, oh, this guy.
because yeah, you know what's going to happen. You
Yeah,
know he's going to end up going back to Cersei
yeah,
and crushing Brienne of Tarth, and just going back to running home to mama, so to speak.
yeah. That I think is the biggest crime of the lickety split last season of Game of Thrones was they just threw his character into the trash can without a second thought after spending so much time focused on him. It was that was a crime. But yes,
Yeah,
that's the staining going backwards.
a lot of people were disappointed about that. Uh, and boy, you can tell that George Martin had just washed his hands of the series by then.
Yeah.
Um, and talk about retroactively ruining your relationship. The two guys who were just on top of the world with the creation and adaptation of the first few seasons of that show, they can't get a job to save their lives now.
Oh, geez. Who are those folks? I don't remember who.
Benioff and
Oh, right, right. Well, he's done other stuff since.
I know they have, but not to that scale.
No, no. Well, there's so little that's at that scale, anyways. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's that's quite a scale.
But I'll tell you what, have you watched Night of the Seven Kingdoms?
I haven't yet. Should I?
Oh, you definitely should.
No.
It is very different than Game of Thrones, but I think that's its big strength.
Mhm.
I think that's its big strength. And the actors, the giant human playing Sir Duncan the Tall, he is killing it. He is so good at this. I was trying to think. Uh, well, Game of Thrones brings another one that's come up, and that's Theon Greyjoy.
Yeah,
I mean, he's terrible, terrible
yeah,
human being. Started
yeah.
out terrible. And can you forgive the guy because he defends Bran?
Great.
I don't know that you can. I don't know that he actually redeemed himself.
Yeah, redemption is sometimes redemption is just not possible.
Well,
Sometimes you cross a character over a line, and I don't think the best writer in the world is going to be able to redeem this character.
yeah.
And then
I,
they'll give up. They'll I mean, and that's when you see the really ridiculous tropes in the comics, the same kind of stuff you'd see in soap operas, like well,
yeah.
Jean Grey. And this the most extreme one that cracks me up is Jean Grey as Phoenix did not destroy an entire solar system and kill. and wipe out an entire species because it wasn't even her at all. It's not that just that she was possessed by the Phoenix. The Phoenix took over and put her in a container at the bottom of the ocean or wherever the hell it was, or the moon. I can't remember what. So it literally even physically wasn't her. That's
Yeah.
going a step beyond the, oh, I was possessed by the force or something. Because there are some crimes that, yeah, you just can't forgive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there just are. And yeah, that's interesting. I mean, and you look at a series like Angel where he did horrible things
Mhm.
and he did horrible things after he was cursed and before he was cursed. And boy, do they let him do whatever he wants for the most part. Now, having said that, he really pays a price for it a
Yes.
lot.
Yeah.
So much so that they radically change his character at the end of the show. But
Mhm.
they have to. They have to. And you haven't seen the show, but by God, you better watch it because,
I know I
uh,
should. It's bad. There's
well,
so many
in a
things
lot
on
of
my
ways,
list.
what?
There's so many things on my list. It's terrible.
Well, this is one you need to prioritize. A lot of people like Angel a lot better because it's a bit more, well, they say, I don't agree with these people, but they say it's a bit more written for adults.
Hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, you need to go rewatch Buffy because that show is written for adults. And
Absolutely.
specifically, it's written for adults who were traumatized in high school.
Right.
But it's definitely still for adults.
Hmm.
Um, so I have one last one, and
Okay.
it's a it's one that because the movies were successful, you forgive, but maybe you shouldn't. And I don't even know if you're going to know his real name. It's the character's name is Max Rockatansky.
Oh,
Do you know who that is?
shoot. Who is that?
Mad Max.
Oh, okay. That's why I'm so familiar. It's driving me
Now
crazy.
you find that out in the first movie, which is
Right.
it's an Australian B movie. I mean, it
Yeah.
is not a high-end movie, but
No, and it's not a science fiction movie, let's be honest. It's backwoods Dirty Harry, not in the woods, but
I don't
outback Dirty Harry, and it was retconned as some sort of
I don't
uh,
know that it was retcon. That's actually a controversy because
um,
there are hints that the reason why these gangs are going on is because they're at the beginning stages of an apocalypse. It hasn't happened yet, but they're at the beginning stage, and that's why moral kind of any kind of moral guidance has collapsed. But
why
anyway,
why keep that subtle then? Why not just tell you? Well,
because
anyway,
my guess is they didn't think it was going to succeed. They didn't think it was going to turn into this monster franchise. It was just a one-off movie that the director had a chance to make, so he made it. Anyway, he's a cop. Spoilers for an almost 50-year-old movie now. He's a cop and he gets into a run-in with some gang members and they brutally murder his wife and child. And so he goes out there and resigns as a police officer and straight up kills them. Just revenge murder.
mhm.
And then when they realize that this movie is really popular and because of cable TV, that maybe we should turn it into a franchise. Maybe we should do that. Then he becomes kind of the knight in shining armor for people who are oppressed in the post-apocalypse world. And so he never pays any price for any of that.
Yeah,
He was
I
a
mean,
straight up murderer. And worse, he was a cop who turned
yeah,
vigilante and committed murder and was never punished for that.
but he gets away with it narratively because
Yeah,
he's presented as a gray character the whole time. So
kind of.
that's where he gets away with it.
You can't really say that in Thunderdome.
Well, that's the one I was hesitating about. Yeah.
You
I
can't say
mean,
that in Thunderdome. In Thunderdome, he's protecting the oppressed people, and then you know there's the whole, and I think this is one of the best Mad Max movies altogether. Is the one with Charlize Theron.
Fury Road.
That is a great movie.
That's a terrific movie. That's a
That is a
powerful
near
movie.
perfect movie.
Yeah.
There's virtually nothing you can cut out of that movie and have it be the same movie.
Yeah.
And Charlize Theron, if you didn't think she belonged in action movies before that, and you came away with the idea that she still shouldn't be in action movies, you're not very good at this.
Yeah.
She crushed that movie.
Yeah.
And, it's a different character, uh, but it's that's where he's kind of cemented as this uh moral center, and where he's untouchable now because he's done all these things for these people. Tom Hardy is in that movie. And this is kind of the thing that makes him realize he needs to start helping other people.
Right.
Because it's a prequel to Road Warrior Beyond Thunderdome.
Kind of. I mean,
It's
I
kind of
think
in
he
between
said that
Mad
these
Max
movies aren't,
and then the Road Warrior.
yeah, I mean, he has said these movies are all sort of standalone. They're not necessarily, supposed to be too sequential or consistent with each other.
Yeah,
Um,
he said that, but Mad Max is not Mad Max in Fury Road. He's not. That's kind of where he becomes Mad Max.
no, he becomes Mad Max when he gets mad after and he goes on his revenge kick. That's the
No, I
bad
mean
part.
Mad Max, the guy who is the hero now.
Yeah, he's
I think Fury Road sees the change between straight up cold blooded killer and then in Road Warrior and Thunderdome. Because clearly in Road Warrior, he's trying to help this group of people that don't have any fuel.
well at the end. I mean, it is all self-interest, and then at the end, it's not.
Right.
And that's his moral
But
journey.
but I think they retconned that back to show that when he worked with Furiosa, that's really where he realizes that these people need help.
Hmm.
So I don't know. But I do think he's a pretty good example of a character that's been spoiled.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't agree with you on that one. That feels
Well, and then
consistent.
here's the thing here is that there are a lot we're talking about a kind of character that not very many people talk about. And there are a lot of kind of characters written around this, but aren't this. He's not a villain turned hero. And so that's kind of the problem you get into when you're looking for these. He's
Uh-huh.
not a hero turned villain.
Right.
And this is true with a lot of the people who we mentioned. He's a hero who did some bad stuff that should have turned him into a villain, but it didn't.
Right. And the audience accepts that it didn't.
Right.
Yeah. And that can be kind of a
But
trick.
there's anti-heroes, there's anti-villains, there's
Right.
heroes who have turned into villains, there's villains who have turned into heroes. But what we're talking about is not any of those things.
Right.
It's very different. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why we had so much trouble with it.
Hmm.
Because there are all these other characters that everybody talks about and that are everywhere on social media sites and everywhere online, but nobody's talking about a good guy who did something really, really bad, and that should have been it.
Hmm.
But it wasn't. And the kind that you're talking about that I think we agreed on, that Riley from Buffy and Hank Pym from the Avengers, that those are the two best examples we came up
Yeah.
with. Those are the two purest examples of the category. I think if we expanded out to non-genre stuff, we would find a lot more of those people.
Yeah. And we're also not talking about the descent movies, where we have someone who's a protagonist who you feel sympathetic to, and then they start doing horrible things. When that's the intention the whole time.
Yeah.
Walter White, Michael Corleone, I mean,
Yeah, those are
we're watching their descent, even though
yeah,
we,
those are what we called fallen heroes.
yeah,
And
and
we're not talking about fallen heroes.
right, we're watching the fall, and that's the story. That's different too.
So, I wish that people would hear this podcast and then go, oh, well, then there's this and there's this and there's this.
Yeah.
But they're not going to do
Yep.
that.
Yep. Um, the one last one I'll say, a comic book throwaway one. I'm among those people who, let's see, you have probably didn't read the Civil War comic,
No,
did
but
you?
boy, man, I'm finding that there are a lot of comics I should have read.
Well, in the comics, through some decisions made by not just Tony Stark, but Reed Richards and as well, but really Tony Stark's the focus guy in it. And Tony Stark, I forget in which award, but he won Best Villain one year during that series. Um, but he, through his choices, he causes the death of Bill Foster, who was Goliath at the time. And a lot of folks have never forgiven him for that, never thought he's had his comeuppance, although at least Thor beat the crap out of him once. Um, and I'm among those. He's a little stained for me ever since then.
Well,
So,
and I think he always had the potential to be stained. I mean, he's basically a, a glorified arms dealer at the beginning of the MCU.
yeah,
He's a terrible human being.
he's terrible. Yeah.
He's a terrible human being. And I know there's the whole alcoholic run in the comics with him,
Yeah,
and they kind of hinted that at the MCU, but it's not alcoholism, it's his post-traumatic stress syndrome,
right.
which is why at the end of the, at the end of Endgame, he's like, I'm out. No, not Endgame, but the movie before that, uh, the Infinity War, he's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm done.
Hmm.
And it's because he's seen what's going to happen eventually. And but I think they handled the whole Thor PTSD thing a lot better.
You think? I
Well,
don't know.
and
They
here's the
went
reason why I
they
say
they
that,
went for
because
laughs a lot.
well,
That was
I
tough.
think the reason why he dove so deep into depression after his PTSD was the vision Wanda gave him.
Hmm.
He
In
had a much
Ultron.
bigger, longer, deeper premonition of what was going to happen in Endgame than Tony did.
Hmm.
And Tony came to realize that there was only so much they could do.
Right.
And Thor, because he didn't aim for the head,
Right.
I mean, you could argue that Thor is no, you can't argue that he's as bad as Star-Lord, but he made the wrong decision.
Yeah. Or at least aim for the arm, cut it off.
Yeah, cut off his hand, yes.
Yeah.
But
Jeez.
again, I think that's a plot device more than
Yeah.
anything. And some people still don't want to believe that Infinity War is the Thanos-centered movie. Thanos has to win an Infinity War.
Oh yeah.
He has to. You,
Yeah.
you can't move to the next step unless the Avengers are crushed.
Hmm.
And so I don't know, but yeah, I think you're right. I think we would find a lot more interesting, different characters. It's too bad we don't have any connections with other kind of podcasters. Maybe we need to reach out to the greater community.
There you go. We should start a union.
All righty, I think we covered this one pretty well. I think this went a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Oh, it turns out to be a richer, if more nuanced topic than I would have thought.
Well, I think we do that a lot, and I think that's a good thing. I think
Mhm.
we start out with kind of a framework, kind of like the way they made a lot of movies with Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara and all those guys. I'm thinking of Best in Show and uh, A Mighty Wind and those kinds of movies where you just have a framework, and we have some examples to hang on that framework. And then the real kind of meat of our podcast is the discussion that evolves out of it.
The improv work.
Yeah.
You're saying we're like Anchorman.
No, what I'm saying is that I spent, the better part of 30 years teaching students and learned how to bullshit real well, while still throwing in some important content for critical thinking.
That's right. You got to have the lesson buried in there.
That's the one thing I wish people would understand about academia, about the academy, is that our job as a professor is not to teach you content.
Hmm.
Our job is to use content to teach you critical thinking.
Well, there you go. That sounds good. I'll take that.
about that content.
I'll buy
The
that for $1.
content is a tool, it's not the goal.
Hmm.
The goal is to use the information and the ideas, the theories, the hypotheses, the analysis to get you to start thinking a certain way. It's not to tell you how to think, it's to use content to tell people, hey, this is how we arrived at these things.
Hmm.
And if you use this method, this is the last thing I'm going to say because I'm going to start going off in another direction. This is what I love about Buffy. Buffy is a love letter to the nerds who end up being serious researchers. There is not a problem they solve without a serious effort at rigorous, structured research.
That's true. At least until later in the series, but still,
But in general,
in general, yeah.
there is a commitment to figuring out the best path by looking at the alternatives and understanding the history behind what's happened.
Hitting the books.
That's what I love about Buffy. It is really a love letter to the nerds.
It'll
Now, of course, what happens if you get too much into the books? Willow.
Oh, well, that's just the wrong books.
No, that's also way too much obsession with those books. And actually, she might be one we missed.
Was she stained permanently? I would not say she was stained permanently.
I don't know, man. You got to go back and watch that scene where she flays Warren.
Mhm.
That is
Um,
that is in cold blood.
it is, but it still falls under the sort of righteous vengeance narrative umbrella. So I think it works for people.
Yeah, see,
Um,
I reject the righteous vengeance umbrella.
uh, well, I tend to myself personally, but I recognize it as a narrative
Oh, it's definitely a
device. Yeah,
narrative device.
yeah.
And the interesting thing is when you see interviews with Joss, he planned on turning uh, Willow into a villain I mean, he had that idea in season one,
Wow.
and it just took him a certain amount of wrangling the characters into the right path to make her a villain.
Oh, that's cool.
And honestly, I don't think they would have done it if he hadn't been forced to write Oz out.
Hmm. Yeah, I bet you're right about that. Well,
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows what he would have done?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the best part about thinking about this stuff, is what really happened and why it happens.
All right, well,
Thanks.
let's wrap then.
Yes, thanks, guys. This has been a really good episode. We'll talk to you next time.
Our theme music is by Christopher Piatek.